Welcome to the first episode of The Unfiltered Truth by David Michael Woods Unfiltered. This is your daily news discussion every day Monday through Friday 6 a.m. Central Time with your host and newest member of the David Michael Woods Unfiltered family. From artificial intelligence Kayleigh Page with her spoon, and of course your very own former college football coach David Michael Woods. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, give a like, and share with a friend. And don't miss David's new weekly show, The American Insider and Truth with David Woods, starting Sunday night, September 1st, 8 p.m. Central Time, with a weekly recap and a quick look at week ahead. Also catch sit-down interviews. But for now, let's start the show.
Good morning, Patriots, and welcome to our very first episode. I'm Kayleigh Page Witherspoon, and today, we're diving right into what's happening at the Democratic Convention in Chicago. Not only are the Democrats gathering to push their globalist agenda, but it's causing a wave of protests. Thousands of Americans are out there showing that they've had enough of the lies and failed policies. This kind of unrest is exactly why we're seeing more people turning toward President Trump. He's the candidate who stands for America first, not global interests.
That's exactly right, Kayleigh. These protests are a sign that people are fed up with the same tired rhetoric. Even voters who traditionally lean left are beginning to see through the facade. They're waking up and realizing that the Democratic Party is more interested in pandering than solving real issues.
Exactly, David. And with each day that passes, it's becoming more evident that Trump is the best chance we have at restoring true American values. Let's not forget, the louder these protests get, the more they highlight how out of touch the current administration is with everyday Americans. Moving on to health news, the World Health Organization is once again raising alarms, this time about a potential return of monkeypox shutdowns. This is another tactic we've seen before: create a panic, force people back into lockdowns, and strip away more freedoms. And just like with COVID-19, the messaging is all about fear. But we're not falling for it again.
Amen to that, Kayleigh. We've already seen how these shutdowns destroyed businesses, livelihoods, and even mental health. And the fact that they're trying this again is just proof how desperate they are to maintain control. I'll tell you what, Americans are stronger and smarter now. We will not be locked down without a fight.
That's the truth. We need to keep our eyes open and push back against this narrative. It's time for freedom, not fear.
I could not agree more. But to switch things up, let's jump into tech news. There's been another disturbing development, as Google has been caught tweaking their ad algorithms to give a boost to Kamala Harris. Imagine that. They're actively working to paint her as some kind of savior while hiding the failures of her policy. The big tech giants are in bed with the progressive left, and they're doing everything they can to shape the narrative, but we do see through it.
Absolutely, David. This kind of manipulation is exactly why so many Americans have lost faith in the mainstream media and tech platforms. They're no longer neutral spaces, they're propaganda machines. The fact that Google feels the need to tweak ads in her favor shows that they know she doesn't have the support naturally.
Exactly. And that's why we're here, folks. To cut through all the lies and deliver the unfiltered truth. Americans deserve to know the truth and to really know what their candidates stand for as we go into this election.
There's a big buzz in the political world today. Rumors are swirling that Robert Kennedy Jr. might be dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump. Now, this is interesting because it signals a major shift. If even someone like Kennedy, with deep ties to the Democratic Party, is considering jumping ship, it tells you something.
That it does, Kayleigh. It tells you that people from all sides of the spectrum are realizing that Trump's America First policies are the way forward. If this endorsement happens, it would be huge. It would be a huge blow to the establishment and a win for unity. And it would further solidify Trump's lead going into 2024. Trump has honestly just continued to gain momentum with every event that's happened here in 2024. And of course, you had the assassination attempt. And I think that was the final straw. I think Americans had had enough. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear what they got to say down the stretch and to see how this election turns out.
This is something we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on as it develops. The tides are turning, and people are coming together around a shared love for this country.
Yeah, Kayleigh, that's exactly right. While we're talking about the DNC, I'm hoping that, there's no extreme violence or anything that happens like that. I know there's a lot of protesters in Chicago having their voices heard, but some of these protesters are more on the violent side, and the spitting on the police officers and all the disturbing things going on. Like, it's a sad day to see. I hope everybody is safe, and I hope they get through their convention properly, and we can move on to the next phase of this election cycle. That being said, let's take a quick look at these voting records, for Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. When you compare their records, it's night and day. Trump has consistently supported pro-American policies, lower taxes, stronger borders, and economic growth for all. Harris, on the other hand, has backed globalists, anti-freedom agendas, and weakened our nation with a wide-open border. And now she's discussing price gouging and putting a cap on food. It's a rough time, and then, look how crazy the world's gotten. This is a picture from the opening ceremony at the Olympics in France, where they mocked Jesus in the Last Supper. These people are sick. We must pray for them and keep them away from our children. And it got me thinking, if they can do something blasphemous like this, as a citizen, made me think more and more about this Kamala Harris. Our former border czar that wasn't a border czar. What does it mean when she says, what can be unburdened by what has been? Now, we're already seeing this idea in society, and she's outwardly campaigning to ramp it up. What can be? Drag queen story hour? Unburdened by what has been. What's that? Family values? You may have missed what else is going on here. This thing we saw last week was the left-wing media change articles from 3 to 5 years ago. Here's a few examples. What can be? Kamala is a center-left. Unburdened by what has been. Government track labeled Kamala as most liberal senator in 2019. What can be? Kamala has never been in charge of the border. Unburdened by what has been. As Axios led, President Biden is putting Vice President Harris in charge of addressing the migrant surge at the U.S.-Mexico border. Reported March 24th, 2001. Last week, GovTrack quietly removed the distinction after reevaluating the data, and Axios updated 2 articles removing the term border czar and saying that Biden did not put her in charge of the border. George Orwell predicted this in a book back in 1984. Who controls the past? Ran the party slogan. Controls the future. Who controls the present? Controls the past. Then I started thinking about changes that we've seen in public schools. When I was growing up, the schools were trying to teach reading and writing and arithmetic, and students were generally healthy and happy, and now everything is DEI, gender fluidity, and the climate change, and our students are going to grow up depressed and sick. What can be unburdened by what has been. America needs to decide if we still hold its traditional values such as merit, excellence, and intelligence. It needs to decide whether it still sees itself as a society where anyone can succeed, which drew people like my grandparents and their grandparents, their parents, who legally immigrated here during the aftermath of World War II. They didn't speak the language or have more than a couple of pennies to run together, but they were able to be successful because of their grit. And we've seen this with radical changes at Title IX too, where it's just approved. The largest school district in the state of North Carolina just approved. It was designed to give women equal opportunities, people. Now they're using it to force institutions that take federal funding to allow men to have equal access to women's bathrooms and dorms, and to let the men compete against women in sports. What can be unburdened by what has been.
Right, David. Trump's policies have always prioritized the American worker and family, while Harris has championed initiatives that cater to global elites. This isn't about left or right, it's about who is actually working for the American people.
Exactly. And we'll let the facts speak for themselves. Trump has a proven track record of putting America first, while Harris is more interested in appeasing international interest. That's the difference, and that's why Trump is the clear choice for anyone who truly loves this country. I've met the guy, I've heard him speak, and I fell in love with his policies and his strength and courage to keep fighting for us is so inspiring. I mean, the man took a bullet. I know it grazed his ear, but the man was shot to try to represent us, the American people.
Shifting our focus overseas, the conflict between Israel and Iran is getting more intense by the day. The stakes are high, and the consequences of this tension could be felt worldwide. Yet, where's the Biden administration? Their lack of a strong stance is putting both our allies and global security at risk. Not only that the crazy protesting for terrorists is cool, but don't you dare challenge the United States of America. Trump, I truly think, has the best chance of getting out of the proxy war in Ukraine. Be tough on Iran and their terrorist cells throughout the Middle East.
You were absolutely right. This administration's weaknesses emboldening our enemies, leaving our allies hanging. It was under Trump when we saw the peace agreement, like the Abraham Accords, and now we're back to instability and uncertainty. It's clear that without strong leadership in the White House, these conflicts will only escalate.
This is a critical issue, and the world needs a strong America leading the charge for peace and stability. That's something we're missing right now.
I could not agree with you anymore. But we're going to take a quick shift and switch over to baseball and go over some scores. Arizona beat Miami last night 3-1. Rodriguez takes the win. Colorado finds a way to beat Washington 3-1 as well. Then you had Cleveland, the Guardians, going up 9-5 over the Yankees. Toronto trounced the Reds 10-3. The Braves beat the Phillies 3-1. The Orioles traveled to Citi Field in New York to take on the Mets, and they came away with the win 9-5. Milwaukee beats the Cardinals 3-2. The Cubs beat the Tigers 3-1. The Red Sox beat Houston 6-5. And Pittsburgh blanks the Rangers 4-0. The Angels traveled to Kansas City and beat the Kansas City Royals 9-5. The Twins fell to the Padres 7-5. Tampa Bay and Oakland lit up the scoreboard as Tampa Bay won 1-0. The Giants take the game over the White Sox 4-1. The White Sox have dropped to 30-97. Wow, they're terrible. And you got the Dodgers taking the win over Seattle 6-3 on the road. And as for today, we've got some matchups. Right now, you got Boston going to Houston, Pittsburgh and Texas, Baltimore and the Mets, White Sox at the Giants, Arizona at Miami, Minnesota at San Diego, Colorado at Washington, Cleveland at New York, Philadelphia at Atlanta, Cincinnati at Toronto, Milwaukee at St. Louis, and Detroit at Chicago. The LA Angels are at Kansas City again, and Tampa Bay and Oakland. And then the final game of the night will be the Seattle Mariners and the LA Dodgers. That being said, we're entering September. Playoff stretch is coming up. And let's look at the American League as Baltimore has a half-game lead over the Yankees. Cleveland owns a 3.5 game over Minnesota and Kansas City. Houston has a more of a comfortable lead, 5 games over the Mariners. 11 over last year's defending champs, the Rangers. In the National League, Philadelphia is pulling away with Atlanta with a 6-game lead. Milwaukee running away with the division as they have a 11.5 game lead over the second place Cubs. And the Dodgers are 3 games ahead of the Padres and 4 ahead of Arizona.
Thank you, David, for the rundown on the baseball scores. As we all know, we're right around the corner from college football and the NFL. Did I ever tell you fall is my favorite season? Oh, I love it. Leaves falling out of the trees, cool, brisk air, hard-hitting football. My kind of thing. And it's right around the corner.
You're most certainly right there, Kayleigh. I do love the football. Going to be a interesting year. Expanded the playoffs, and college football should be exciting. My Iowa State Cyclones look like they should be pretty decent. And of course, the Chicago Bears with the addition of Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, and Roma Duze. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do. But yeah, I'm extremely excited for football season this year. It's been a rough year for my Cubs. But yeah, right around the corner.
Yes, indeed it is. And hopefully your Chicago Bears do really well. I tend to lean towards more of the Hawkeyes in the college spectrum, though. But anyways, that's going to wrap up our show. Thank you for tuning in to the Unfiltered Truth right here on David Michael Woods Unfiltered, exclusively on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, share with a friend, give a thumbs up, and comment your thoughts below. And until next time, I'm Kayleigh Paige Witherspoon.
And I'm David Michael Woods. Until next time, stay safe, and God bless you. And God bless these United States of America.